welcome or welcome back to my channel and welcome to a new reading vlog. This is my best friend Katie. You may know her from the YouTube channel Katie is Reading, where she recently hit 100,000 subscribers. Getting to see Katie go from 2K to 100K has been an insane experience, and I am so incredibly proud of my friend, and I wanted to do something to properly commemorate the experience because I think hitting 100K is a big deal and deserves to be properly celebrated. There are two parts to this plan. Part one is this vlog, which you'll actually not see until it's posted up on the channel, in which I'm going to be reading 4 of her favorite books of all time. I'm really excited about that. I know, Katie, if you're watching, you're not as excited because you are incredibly nervous that I'm gonna hate every single one of your favorite books, but you'll just have to stay tuned and find out. And number 2 is a surprise 100K party. Now, how do you plan a surprise party for someone who lives in an entirely different state from you and whose friends also live in entirely different states? You hijack a trip you already had planned. That's what you do. Last year, Katie and I rented this beautiful cabin in Arkansas and stayed there for a couple days, and we decided that it would be really fun to do a yearly trip. It was my perfect opportunity to execute something that she is entirely not expecting because she thinks it's just going to be the 2 of us at the cabin. Little does she know there's going to be an extra 3 people there. 2 of her friends from in real life, Elaine and Caroline, and one that she's actually never met before but became friends with through YouTube, and that is Mackenzie. The cherry on top is I have also never met with any of these girls. However, a couple months ago I decided to reach out to them and see if they would be interested. Katie hadn't hit 100K at this point, so I was really banking on data and statistics for her to hit 100K in time before this trip, and luckily she hit it with plenty of room to spare for I could actually breathe. Now, you'll be able to see how the surprise party goes at the end of the video, but for now, this is a reading vlog where I'm going to be reading, like I said, 4 of Katie's favorite books, and I'm actually really excited about this. Katie and I used to have pretty similar reading tastes, and then I want to say 2023, our taste in books suddenly split. We still enjoy a couple of the same books, but for the most part, we're not picking up similar books at all. So I'm gonna go ahead and get into the TBR for y'all know what books I'm gonna be reading, but if you know anything about Katie, I'm sure you have a pretty good guess as to what I'm going to be picking up. The first book being Half a Soul by Olivia Atwater. Now, this was Katie's favorite book of 2023, so it goes without saying that I have to pick it up. If you don't know, we're following Theodora as she has been cursed by a fairy to only have half a soul. She doesn't really feel emotions like most normal people do. She doesn't feel fear or embarrassment or anything like that, which is kind of a tricky situation when you're living in Regency, England, and you need to find a husband. Obviously, I've heard incredible things about this book from Katie. I think it'll be fun. I do love historical romances. I don't pick them up often, but I know Katie absolutely eats up historical romances, so I'm really excited to see what I think about it. It's not super long, and I feel like it's going to be pretty fast-paced. It's just under 300 pages, and I'm actually going to be starting with this book, but before I get into that, I am going to give you the rest of the TBR. Next, we have The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern. I never thought that I would see the day that I'm gonna be picking up another Erin Morgenstern book. If you didn't know, because I don't think I've ever really talked about it on here, I actually did read The Night Circus back in high school. I read it because the Clockwork Reader was one of my favorite booktubers back in high school, and she absolutely loved The Night Circus, so I wanted to give it a go myself. It really wasn't my type of book, but I also don't know if I was ready for such lyrical and prosy writing. So while I am apprehensive about reading another Erin Morgenstern book, I'm also a little bit excited to see how my taste has developed since I read The Night Circus. I also have heard so many mixed things about this book. Obviously, Katie loves it. It's one of her absolute favorite books. However, I do know that either people love it or they hate it. I don't know if this book is going to be for me, but regardless, I am going to pick it up. When I did actually pick up my hold from the library, the librarian was hyping it up quite a bit, so it made me feel a little bit better that not just Katie is hyping up this book, and I know many people love this book. Again, I don't know if I am the correct audience for it, but guess what? We're gonna figure it out. It's also worth noting that I have the audiobook for this. Funnily enough though, Katie and I share a Libby account, and she noticed that The Starless Sea was borrowed. Now, I love some good gaslighting, so obviously I had to gaslight her, being like, why would I ever borrow the Starless Sea audiobook? You know I'm never going to read that book. Maybe it was a glitch. Who knows how it got there? Then she got rid of it, so I had to re-borrow it from the library. So if she asks again what happens, I honestly can just be like, I'm trolling you and I was the one borrowing it just to mess with you. Like I said, I love some good gaslighting when it comes to keeping surprises. We also have another historical romance, and that being A Curious Beginning by Deanna Rayborn. This one is quite exciting because I already struck a bargain with Katie to pick up this book. This is one of Katie's favorite series. It's like 9 books long, and we kind of struck a bargain because my favorite series is Ranger's Apprentice, and she did read the first 2 books in the series. However, I have been begging for like 2 years for her to pick back up the series and continue it on. So we struck a bargain. For every Veronica Speedwell book that I read, she will read the coinciding number in Ranger's Apprentice. So once I read 2 of these books, we'll read like the 3rd ones together and then the 4th ones together, so on and so forth. So I'm quite excited that it's all working out for me and I can be 1 book ahead when the new year starts. This is a murder mystery series that's set back in the Victorian era. However, I have been told by Katie herself that no one is really in it for the mysteries, they're in it for the romance between Veronica and Stoker, which is wonderful to hear because I am not big on murder or mysteries. I am a classic scaredy cat, scared of her own shadow, so anything even remotely scary stresses me out. So I'm hoping that, you know, Veronica and Stoker's cute banter and flirting will distract me from whatever like harrowing mystery they're trying to solve. And then the last book that I have is actually a manga that a friend bought for me quite a while ago, saying that she thought I would enjoy it, and it just so happened to be Yona of the Dawn. If you don't know, Yona is Katie's all-time favorite manga. She's read all 30 some odd volumes and read them all within a year, which is honestly crazy. Since I had the first copy on hand, it kind of made sense for me to also pick this up, and I needed to pick one of these books to tell her about that I'm bringing to the cabin so she wouldn't get suspicious, because I feel like if I brought any of the other 3 books, she would have been very, very suspicious. But it works out that I had just read a manga and bought like a different manga as well, so I was just telling her I'm kind of in the manga mood and I might as well pick up Yona while I'm out there, so that way I can read this book at the cabin and not elicit any suspicion from Katie. Here are the 4 books that I'm going to be picking up in this vlog. It's kind of a hefty TBR, not gonna lie, but I am very, very excited because not only am I going to be reading all of Katie's favorite books, I'm also going to be doing all of Katie's favorite activities that she loves to do in vlogs. Things like baking her favorite desserts, putting together a puzzle while listening to an audiobook, and even doing a little bit of crocheting. It is just going to be a Katie-centric video because this video is of course dedicated to my parabatai, and Katie, I know you're watching. I love you so much and I am so, so incredibly proud of you. So without further ado, let's go ahead and hop into some reading. I managed to sit down and read for a little over an hour, and I made it to page 108, chapter 9 in Half a Soul. And already the romance is just so good because it's not even there yet and it makes me so happy. Seriously, historical romances hit so differently because they really need to depend on the emotional connection and scenarios playing out for these characters. I feel like a pitfall that a lot of modern romances have is they tend to rely a lot more on like the physical relationship aspects in the romance and lean heavily on that aspect versus the emotional aspect, which should be the most important part. It's not all romance books, but I feel like especially in modern day publishing, that is typically what happens, is you get the physical connection before you get the emotional connection. So with historical romances, because a physical connection would be absolute blasphemy for these characters, they really have to rely on the emotional and relationship and becoming friends before properly doing anything. This book is just doing that so well because, like I said, there's nothing happening so far. We're 100 pages in. Nothing happening, meaning no outright anything happening, if that makes sense. We got to meet Elias, who is our main character's love interest, I assume, and he is the court like magician or sorcerer or something like that. Dora has a run-in with him when she's out and stumbles into a magic shop, and during that meeting we also get to meet Albert, who is Elias's kind of only friend at this point, or at least only friend that we know of. Dora's run-in with Elias is not necessarily delightful in the slightest. In fact, he is quite short and snappy with her, and it made him a very unlikable character in the beginning, but I love when characters that are rude and standoffish and you don't really like them in the beginning. I love when it's finally revealed like why they act the way they do. It just gets me every time. I'm like, oh my gosh, backstory. Wait, what's his backstory? We got to actually discover a lot of why he is the way he is, and he harbors a lot of resentment to just how the world is. But he also finds Dora to be an absolutely fascinating case, and I'm so excited to see their relationship develop, especially because they are not supposed to be courting, but Elias is now accidentally courting Dora, mostly to do research on Dora and to figure out a way to potentially cure and find the other half of her soul. Dora's guardian does not approve, and she's trying to like be a puppet master and control all these people and like push them in certain directions, and it's giving Bridgerton vibes in the way that like the mamas want to like control like the daughters' relationships and, you know, really push them in certain directions. I'm just absolutely adoring this book so much. I think it's so cute. It's very easy to read, which I had figured. The writing is very fast-paced. The character dialogue is super witty. I love witty banter, so I'm especially loving any scenes with Dora and Elias alone. But also Dora just doesn't know how to hold her tongue because she doesn't understand like social scenarios and what things should not be said and what things should be said properly. And I adore it so much. So I'm excited to see where things go. We actually got way more depth to the world building than I had imagined. Dora and Albert ended up doing some charity work and volunteering at a workhouse with a bunch of sick people. It just kind of opened our eyes as readers to the reality of what's going on in this world, especially with this magical plague that is also going around that's been introduced into the story. Children are falling ill with a sleeping plague where they just fall asleep and never wake up. So Elias is trying to research that on top of everything else he's going on, and he just has a lot of resentment towards the people that are throwing all these balls and parties and are ignoring the reality of what's actually going on in the world. Like I said, I'm already 100 pages in, so I'm already a third of the way done. I don't know if I want to finish this book today or not. I kind of want to start the Starless Sea because that's the book I'm most apprehensive about, and I figure that if I don't like it and I have to like slog through it, I would prefer to get a jump start on it as early as I can. Like I said, I have the audiobook for it, and I thought this would be the perfect opportunity to go do the puzzle audiobook combo that Katie raves about all the time. The puzzle though, y'all, this is such a difficult puzzle. It's a puzzle of Hyrule from a Zelda game, and all the pieces are like the same color, so I don't think I'm gonna get much progress done in it because one, I suck at puzzles and I'm just really slow with putting them together, but I thought I'd at least start the Starless Sea and hopefully come back with you with an update saying that I at least like it or don't think it's boring. I'm so scared.
Penguin Random House Audio presents The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern.
started the Starless Sea, as you saw, via audiobook while working on my puzzle. I did not make as much progress in that puzzle as I wanted to, but I honestly made more progress than I figured I would, because that puzzle, like I said and keep saying and will continue to say, is so difficult. Why did I not think this through? I am 150 pages into this book. It does not have chapter titles or numbers or anything, so all I can tell you is the page number. I'm loving this book so incredibly much. I'm actually obsessed and I cannot put it down. That's my update. I'm actually flabbergasted at how much I'm loving this book, and I'm so pleasantly surprised at how much I am loving this book. Here I was yesterday saying, oh, I'm so apprehensive about this book. I don't think I'm gonna like it. Oh my gosh, it's gonna be such a slog to get through. I cannot put this book down. It is blowing my mind in the best way. I appreciate Erin Morgenstern's writing so much more than I did back when I read The Night Circus the first go around. But this book is also more action heavy than I had figured, but not traditional action heavy where people are fighting and all of, you know, fantasy related action things. Just the suspense it's keeping you in where you have no idea what's going on. I don't even know how to properly explain this to you other than there's a secret society. It's giving dark academia vibes, and I'm here for it because not even our main character knows what's going on, let alone us. Typically, books like that where I have no idea what's going on, they annoy me so much because I hate feeling lost. But this is a unique experience where I'm living for being so confused, but in the best possible way. I'm only 150 pages into this book and I want to purchase a physical copy and reread it and annotate it. There's just so many beautiful lines, and Erin Morgenstern's writing is so pretty. The high school me did not appreciate, and it makes me sad to think that all of this time I've had this beef with Erin Morgenstern that was completely unwarranted. Because oh my gosh, this is incredible. I think I accidentally skipped out on telling you what this book was about in the intro. We're following Zachary, and the book starts off with this story about a pirate in captivity and a girl requesting a story from him. And then we're told a story about a boy who comes across a door with a painted sword, bee, and key on it, and he goes to open the door, hesitates, and ends up not opening the door because he wants to keep his belief that the door potentially leads to somewhere magical. But if he opens the door and it turns out that it's not, he doesn't want to be disappointed. So he goes on his merry way. And then years later, back in the present, we're following Zachary, who is a college student in Vermont, and he's at the college library looking for a new book to pick up, and he's perusing the shelf and he comes across this book with no name on the spine and no author anywhere in sight. It's called Sweet Sorrows, and as Zachary reads it, he realizes that the story is about himself and about that day where he came across this door that was painted and chose not to open it, and yet if he had opened it, he would have discovered that it led to the Starless Sea. So now he's on this adventure, if you want to call it that, this adventure of hunting down bits and pieces of a mystery that has been left to him, while also facing some adversity and not really knowing who to trust or what's going on. He's been thrust into this world that people assume he knows about because he is here, and yet he knows nothing at all. And we know nothing at all as well. It is wonderful. I am just blown away by how incredible this book is, truly. It makes me so happy that I'm enjoying this because this was the book I was most worried about disliking because it's so different from I think anything I would typically pick up, and it isn't a story that is told in a way that I typically would enjoy. I don't typically like to be left in the dark. I don't like feeling confused, but again, this is taking me on such a journey where I'm confused in the best possible way, and I'm so obsessed with this book, y'all. And I'm so happy that this may potentially become a new favorite. That is also Katie's favorite, and we can finally discuss together. I plan to do a little bit more audiobook reading because, like I said, I cannot put this book down. And we have to do another Katie activity. That activity is crochet. I have my crochet needle here. I had to do some digging because I couldn't find my bag with all my crochet hooks, but I found one. We're good. I thought it'd be really fun to combine some of the things that Katie has done, so I'm gonna crochet a garland because she has these like bat garlands hanging in her room, and she's currently making one that's like stars. She makes them with felt and she sews them. I'm not about that life. I thought it'd be fun to make a garland that I crocheted. I crocheted one of these yesterday just to see if I remembered how to crochet and could crochet it. So I thought I'd make a fun like snowflake garland to hang in my room. I didn't know what yarn I owned because I packed it all away and have bought so much yarn throughout the years to just not make anything with it. But I found this purple yarn that has specks of like metallic glitter string, what have you. And I also have white yarn with the same specks of glitter. And I thought purple and white would be so cute. Like I said, I crocheted this yesterday to make sure that I could still crochet and read patterns. So I found a pattern. It was just free on YouTube. If I remember, I'll link it below, or if any of y'all care and want it, I'll link it below. I literally just Googled crochet snowflake. It's so cute. I'm so obsessed and I can't wait to get into crocheting more. But before I do that, I did have a little bit of a book haul slash a gift that I'm giving to Katie that's in the realm of a book, but it's a notebook thing. You'll see. I have two special editions that I bought recently. One is a gift for Katie for hitting 100K, and the second one is just one that I found on Mercari and said, "You're coming home with me." And that book being A River Enchanted by Rebecca Ross. This is the Illumicrate version, and I want to get my hands on a Fire Endless so bad. This is probably my favorite Rebecca Ross duology that I read. I did read Divine Rivals, but this book just hit differently. I remember I gave it a 4.5 the first time I read it, but this book has stuck with me for far longer than I think any book that I've given a 4.5 previously has. So I honestly think it is a 5-star read. I read it last year. It's absolutely impeccable. I wanted to get my hands on this stunning edition because I'm not the biggest fan of any of the cover designs that this book has. So just take a little peek at this. The gold is absolutely stunning. It has sprayed edges as well, which are beautiful. I love it. The inside art had me literally gasping. It was so pretty. Are you kidding me? And it is also signed by Rebecca Ross, which is always a nice touch. I've had this on my bookshelf for a couple weeks, but I don't think I ever properly hauled it, so I thought that this would be the perfect vlog to haul it in because Katie is always picking up the most stunning editions and making me want to spend all my money. The next book that I snatched up for Katie is one that I know she's going to be literally over the moon about because people on Mercari are kind of crazy with these prices, and I managed to find one for nearly half the price that it typically sells for. And that book is Emily Wilde and the Encyclopedia of Fairies by Heather Fawcett, and this is the Fairy Loot edition, and it is absolutely, it's stunning, y'all. It makes me wish that I liked this book in the slightest. I'm not a big Emily Wilde fan. I know Katie's a massive fan, and she recently bought herself Map of the Other Lands, which is book 2 in the Emily Wilde series, as a gift for herself for 100K. And I thought, wouldn't it be perfect if I got her the first one for her 100K gift from me? It also has gorgeous inside art as well. Truly, Fairy Loot and Illumicrate and Owlcrate and all these people that design these books are just so talented, and then it was also signed. I'm very eager to be giving this to Katie. I know she's gonna love it, and I'm so excited, and I hope she's excited too. But I also have another couple of gifts I wanted to show off as well, and that being this notebook. But the cool thing about this notebook is instead of just having traditional like lines to write on, the lines, it is so tiny, there's not a chance you're seeing this, but the lines are the entirety of Dracula. And I thought that was so fun. And on the cover it says Despair Has Its Own Calms by Bram Stoker, and it's a novel journal. It also has this like gorgeous inside art as well. I didn't know about because I had never opened it until this very moment. There were so many classics that I could have chosen from. There's a whole list on the back here, but obviously Dracula seemed the most Katie appropriate. And I also got this postcard of a cat playing a trombone that I'm incredibly excited to gift her as well because it's just so silly, and hopefully she'll enjoy putting that on her wall. So that is my little bookish slash book related haul that I wanted to give you all. I'm so excited to give Katie her gifts. I literally will get to see her in like 3 days, which is so exciting yet kind of crazy that it's coming up so quickly. I know she's going to be thrilled, and gift giving is one of my love languages. I love buying shit for people. I know this was kind of a long update, but that's everything that I have to share with you. So let's go ahead and make some more snowflakes. It is now quite a bit later into the night and I actually have updates for both Half a Soul and Starless Sea, but we'll get to that in a second because as you just saw, I also wrapped Katie's gifts. And they turned out so cute. Funnily enough, the ribbons that I used on the gifts that literally worked out so perfectly were wrapped around gifts that she gifted to me a couple years back, and I found them as I was searching for all my craft supplies, and I thought it was the perfect opportunity to reuse and send them back to her. But now let's talk about both Starless Sea and Half a Soul because I've made quite a bit more progress into the Starless Sea while I was crocheting my snowflake garland, which I put up, and I am absolutely obsessed with how it looks. I think I'm gonna make another garland for my office as well because looking at it brings me so much joy. And then I was debating maybe making a few more snowflakes just to like scatter about on my bookshelf and hang them on the string lights. I think that would be quite fun. I'm not purchasing any Christmas decor this year because one, I already spent all my decor budget on fall decor and went a little, shall we say overboard on my fall decor purchasing. Plus I already have a few Christmas bits and bobs here and there, but I thought it'd be really fun just to like create my own Christmas decor anyways, and I really miss crocheting. I used to crochet so much growing up because I was really into rainbow loom, like the rubber band loom things, and something that got really popular was called lumigurumi, which is like amigurumi but with rubber bands, and I would literally go to craft fairs and vendor fairs selling my handmade rubber band crochet goods as a teenager. So it's just really nice when I get to revisit my love for crochet. I just don't have the time these days. However, Katie is making this star blanket right now, and when we're on FaceTime she's typically crocheting. Every time she starts a new crochet project, I'm like, should I pick crocheting back up? I don't have time, but I want to so badly. So maybe I'll try to make that a goal in the new year to actually complete one big crochet project. I don't think I'm crazy enough to do a granny square blanket like Katie did. Part of me wants to, but the other part of me is terrified that I would get like 30 squares in and then give up. But the star blanket is so cute and I think it'd be really fun to have potentially matching blankets. We'll see. That is very ambitious still. That takes many hours to crochet. Okay, enough blathering about crochet blankets. Let's talk briefly about the Starless Sea because I read about 100 pages, I want to say, when I was crocheting. I'm on page 237 now and I think I'm in part 3. They're split up by interludes. This book is so hard to navigate. Hold on. Yeah, I'm in part 3, which is the Ballad of Simon and Eleanor, which is something that I realized I hadn't even discussed in the first update. There are interludes and stories within stories in this book. There are just so many short stories woven between the tale of Zachary, and I'm here for every single one of them. They are beautiful and they are so profound and just makes you think about life in a different fashion. Truly, they are so beautifully written because not only are they beautiful to read, but then they're interwoven so seamlessly into Zachary's story and they crop up in the most unexpected places. I'm just living for it so much. For a book that's this vibey, the stakes seem very high. Our character was nearly met with death, and I was stressed because I didn't think that this book would stray that far in that particular direction. So when it started happening, I'm like, surely not. All the interludes and the short stories are books within this book, and so far I want to say the part that I'm on right now, which, what did I say, like the story of Simon and Eleanor, I think that's one of my favorites so far. They're all so intriguing and I don't know where Zachary's story is leading, and I'm here to just enjoy the journey. I really don't think I care too much about the destination, which is really weird because typically with stories like these I just want to know how things are going to end up and how the book is going to end, but instead I just want to stay in this world with Zachary and discover more of this wonderful magical world within our own normal world. But alas, I'm already 50% of the way through, which is absolutely crazy because it feels like I've been reading this book for so long and yet so little time at all. But the audiobook says 50% complete, and I don't want this book to end because I'm so obsessed with it. But another book that I'm utterly obsessed with is Half a Soul by Olivia Atwater. I did end up sitting down and finish reading this after I finished my little crochet garland because I was just in the mood to pick it back up and try to finish it, and I did. I love books that make me feel things, especially when it comes to romance. I am such a hopeless romantic, and for someone with no love in her life, I am just living vicariously seriously through these book characters because oh my gosh, the journey that I went on throughout this book had me moved to tears near the end. I was holding back the tears, but there was certainly a tear or two that might have slipped out. The fact that this little standalone novel could elicit such emotions from me. I mean, to be fair, I'm such an emotional person anyway, so it probably wouldn't have taken much to get me to cry. But the story took on a depth that I just wasn't expecting. Not only did we get depth from our main characters, which were of course Dora and Elias, and the depth of their individual characters as well as their chemistry together, we also got unexpected depth from side characters and unexpected character growth from side characters, from like all side characters except for like one. And she was the worst anyways, so I didn't need any more character development from her. But every side character had their own motivations and how they grew up affected the ways that they interacted with the world, and this book just took on a scope that I had not anticipated prior. Olivia Atwater tells this short story in the author's note about a girl on a beach and she was throwing fish back into the sea, and someone approached her and said, "Why are you doing that? There's too many fish, you won't make a difference." And she grabs another fish and says, "It'll make a difference to this fish." And it just goes to show that even though the world may constantly feel like it's ending and the world is filled up with so much hate and anguish and pain and horribleness, and it may feel completely out of your reach to be able to do very much at all, I think this is a good reminder that even though you cannot save everyone, you cannot help everyone, you cannot change everyone's lives, you can still make a difference in one person's life. It truly explored topics that were so profound that it shocked me that this is what I was reading in this seemingly short, cute, and fun Regency romance novel. I think it's so much deeper than just a romance novel, and I adored the way that it explored so much more depth within the world and these characters. Like I said earlier, I'm just utterly obsessed with this book. I don't know if it's a 5-star read. I am gonna sleep on it and give you my final rating tomorrow. Right now it's teetering between a 4.75 and a 5. I don't know if it's like an absolute favorite, but again, I'm gonna sleep on it and see how I feel come tomorrow. I just had really mixed thoughts with this book because I loved it, but I'm like, is it a new favorite? I don't know. Like, it made me feel things. I really love the romance. There's not much in this book that I don't like. Why would it not be a 5-star? But I feel like I've become so stingy with my 5 stars that maybe when I read a 5-star, I can't even tell it's a 5-star anymore. I need to reevaluate my star rating because I used to just be able to tell on vibes. Now, not so much. Another thing that was just amazing about reading this book was just knowing that Katie adored this book and getting to read it and understand how it had all of the things that she loved, and getting to read it and finally understand it and see all the elements that she talks about so much and all of the things she enjoys in a story just packed into one. It was so cool to see, and I understand why she adores this book so much. So it's cool getting to see like that little bit of perspective now that I've actually read the story. I'm actually heading out to Taekwondo practice. I recently started Taekwondo. I was trying to get back into jiu-jitsu, but I wasn't really feeling it here in Florida in my area, so I decided to try out Taekwondo instead, which, in case you're wondering why Taekwondo, I watched Michelle Khare newest video where she tries to become a black belt in 90 days, and it was such an inspirational story. And ever since joining jiu-jitsu, I've become obsessed with martial arts, and I've always wanted to like try out different martial arts, but I got so hooked on jiu-jitsu that I only really dedicated time to that. So I thought this was the perfect opportunity to try a new sport. The gym is incredible. The vibes are so wonderful. Everyone was so kind, and I immediately became obsessed with it because my martial art background in kickboxing is coming in handy when it comes to like the punches and the kicks, but also my background in dance when it comes to the forms. Like I'm utterly obsessed with this sport, y'all. So I'm going to go, and I will talk to y'all tomorrow. Good morning. It is actually the next day, and last night I started A Curious Beginning by Deanna Raybourn, and I made it 138 pages in. I'm on the start of chapter 14. Oh my gosh, mistakes were made. I was on a FaceTime call with Katie, and I was reading this book. I had it out of frame. I told her I was reading some like non-fiction books about maps because I had mentioned the book previously, and it was the first book that I could think of when she asked me, oh, what are you reading? I was like, oh, this book about maps and the creation of maps and stuff. But then I started reading this book and the dialogue was too funny and I was giggling, and she kept giving me looks being like, what are you giggling at? I thought you said you were reading a non-fiction book about maps. And then I gaslit her a little bit, but I don't think she believed me like in the slightest. But oh my gosh, I love this book so much, and I'll talk more in depth about it in a second. But I will say, it's very, very reminiscent of Half a Soul. They're giving similar vibes in terms of atmosphere. And circling back to Half a Soul, I ended up settling giving this a 4.75. Not quite a favorite, but still so close to perfection. And it was just so fun. So I finally have my star rating for that figured out. And then I went to the library, as you just saw this morning, and I checked out 2 different books. The first one being This Is How You Lose the Time War by Max Gladstone and something El Motar. Amal El Motar. I knew the barcode was covering something. This is on my 2024 TBR, and I would really love to get it off of my 2024 TBR. It's a very short story, and as I was checking out, the librarian said that it was his favorite book of all time. So very high praise and high expectations going into this one. And then the other book that I checked out, I'm gonna be so honest, I was drawn to it because it has a map on the cover. And if you know anything about me, you know I love my maps. And it's called A Crown for Cold Silver by Alex Marshall. This was blipped by John Gwynn, Django Wexler. I don't know the other two, but they you know, high praise. It seems like a very brutal book. I don't know if it's a standalone because it doesn't say. Typically, you know, series are like the first book in the blank 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 series. Is A Crown for Cold Silver by Alex Marshall a standalone? No, this is book 1 of the Crimson Empire. Everyone act shocked that Goodreads crashed on me. I swear this thing crashes like no tomorrow. The second one is A Blade of Black Steel, and the third one is A War in Crimson Embers. Didn't know I was getting into a series, but I'm in the high fantasy mood, okay? I finished Words of Radiance recently, and I've just been writing that high, looking for more high fantasy series. But that is my little library haul. I'm quite excited. I didn't really go to the library looking for anything in particular. I was just searching for things that, you know, caught my eye, and that's what I ended up with. Now, back to A Curious Beginning. I am so obsessed with these characters, y'all. It is actually insane. Veronica and Stoker, I get it now. Katie is constantly like, I love Veronica and Stoker, like their dynamic is so great. I want what Veronica and Stoker have because I am living for it. I love banter and witty dialogue and just characters where when they're flirting, it's like insulting each other back and forth. And that is exactly what Veronica and Stoker's relationship is like. How these two characters came together was not at all what I was expecting when I went into it. The beginning of the book starts off with Veronica at a funeral. Her guardian had just died, and when she heads to her house, it turns out someone broke into her house and like wrecked it, and they were still there, got chased off. Then suddenly someone else approaches and saves her and is like, you need to come with me, you need to come to London, your life is in peril. Then she is thrust in the hands and care of Stoker, and the Baron who had got her to London is murdered. So now they have a mystery on their hands and are kind of on the run because clearly something is after Veronica, but we're not really sure what. Right now, they're part of like a traveling circus type of thing, and I'm living for it, y'all. I'm living for their relationship and just the absolute despise these two characters have. When characters despise each other, but like they really don't, I'm here for it. I love how Veronica is constantly challenging Stoker too, because she is a well-traveled and very smart and intelligent woman, and Stoker is typically used to like twittering airheads essentially, so Veronica being able to actually keep up with his verbal banter, it's so good, y'all. Like, I freaking am loving this book so much. And honestly, I know it's a little too early to call because, like I said, I'm only like 130 pages in, but this is giving 5-star vibes. So what have we really learned from this vlog so far? It's that Katie maybe does have good reading taste, and I need to give her books another chance because every single one of these books that I've picked up, I've like loved so much. And also, it is so hard reading these books and having such a good time and not telling Katie about it, because even when I was on the FaceTime call yesterday and I was like laughing and stuff, I kept wanting to like read the passages out loud or text her when I was reading Half a Soul and be like, oh my gosh, these characters are getting to me, or message her about beautiful lines that I read in the Starless Sea, but I'm just holding back for this surprise vlog. But oh my gosh, I have to hold myself back so hard, because typically me reading anything when I'm on a FaceTime call with Katie, I'm constantly like laughing and explaining where I'm at or like reading passages out loud, so to not do that feels so foreign. I literally had to hang up the call yesterday, say I was going to sleep. It was like 1:30 in the morning. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna go to bed. And then I stayed up for another hour and a half reading this for I could giggle in peace and she wouldn't be suspicious. So I'm having a grand old time and I'm so excited that I'm loving this series, because like I said, I struck a bargain with Katie, and if I was hating this book series, it would have been a very dreadful reading experience to try to continue this series. I love them so much. Now I'm going to do a little bit of baking. I had asked Katie a couple of days ago to tell me what her favorite like baked good she had made this year. She had told me it was the maraschino cherry cookies she had made in one of her vlogs 5 months ago. I had to track it down, which was really annoying, but it's the reading vlog titled A New Favorite Romance, Book Mail, and Cozy Hobbies. She makes these maraschino / like white chocolate cookies. I'm not a big fruit with pastries type of person, but I thought I'd bake them regardless, because like I said, this is a very Katie-centric video. Plus it all works out because I'm visiting Katie in literally 2 days, which is absolutely crazy. And so I figured I could just bring her the treats in case I don't like them and my roommate doesn't like them. That way they're still gonna get eaten. I've never baked these cookies before, and I've never baked with fruit, so I feel like it's going to be quite the adventure. So let's go ahead and get some baking done. I have quite the update for you all. I have finished both A Curious Beginning and A Starless Sea. I literally just finished A Curious Beginning this morning, so I thought I'd start by talking about my thoughts on Veronica Speedwell before I talk about The Starless Sea, because that one's gonna take me a minute to gather my thoughts because it really left me reeling last night. This was so fun, and I'm so excited to continue on the series and see more of Veronica and Stoker and their adventures. I have to agree with Katie that the mystery aspect of it kind of bored me. I don't think she necessarily felt bored during like the mystery aspect, but I'm just not a big mystery person. The suspense was killing me and I had no idea where things were going. But of all the things that I would have guessed, it was not what it ended up being in the slightest, and I loved it so much. It really came out of left field. I feel like I was just so there for the reasoning behind people trying to kill Veronica, basically. The best part of this book is Veronica and Stoker's relationship. I love how the ending of this book leads really well into the next books in this series because there are still many loose threads in this story that need answering, and I hope that Veronica and Stoker will solve those mysteries. Overall, I ended up giving it a 4.5. Not quite a new favorite. I think the beginning was really, really strong when they were first interacting, and then when we got more into the thick of the mystery and the detective work, I want to say, it lost me a little bit. I was really invested in their banter, and anytime they would, you know, quip back and forth, it would always keep me engaged. But in terms of when they were just like out and about looking for clues or, you know, just chatting and trying to like solve this case, I was like, okay, can we go back to fighting now? 4.5, definitely a very strong book, and I understand why Katie loves this so much. And it also very much so atmospheric wise reminds me a lot of the Infernal Devices series, because I want to say they're set back in the same time in the same place because they're in London. And so I understand why Katie just adores this book so much. It truly is reminiscent of the Infernal Devices. It's kind of crazy how similar they felt, but in a good way. Obviously they're very different because the Infernal Devices are like magical and fantasy, while this is a historical romance mystery situation. So they're different, but atmospheric wise, they feel very much so the same in terms of their charm. And I loved that. Now, the Starless Sea. What a book. Truly, what a book. This is definitely a book you should go into knowing absolutely nothing and enjoy the process of being confused, because it just hits so good when you have no idea what's going on and you get to puzzle out the plot with the characters themselves and yet still have so many questions. The Starless Sea truly is an ode to stories, and it is a book about stories, and it is a book that really represents stories well, and the writing is so whimsical and magical and heavy on the prose, and it meanders along a bit with its pacing. But overall, if you're one who likes very whimsically books, I would recommend this book. However, I don't think that this book is for everyone. In fact, if I read this after I read The Night Circus, I would have hated it probably as much as I hated The Night Circus, because I read The Night Circus back 6 years ago, I want to say, and I did not appreciate the writing at that point. This had a good blend of action and plot and just meandering. I will say though, this book did lose me for a little bit, and that was part 4 and part 5, because part 1, 2, and 3 invested. Okay, I was in it. I felt like I was in this world. Every time I picked this book up to listen to it, because I listened to the audiobook the whole way through and it was spectacular. I highly recommend the audiobook. But every time I sat to listen to it, I felt transported into this world, and I felt like I left reality behind because it was just so magical and captivating. And then part 4 and part 5 happened, and I was like, what is going on? But not in like a what is going on kind of way. More in a, I no longer feel like I'm transported into this world and I'm just bored. If you're bored in this book, it's not a fun book. It no longer becomes a fun magical time. It just becomes a slog to get through. The decisions that characters made in this book no longer felt like they had any impact on the story. In parts 1 through 3, every decision a character would make would have like a ripple effect, where so many things would then fall into place down the line because of that one choice. And yet with part 4 and part 5, it felt less impactful to the story and just felt kind of tossed in there. And then it picked up again in part 6, and I got back into the story, and it also included one of my favorite, I want to say my second favorite story within the story, and that was The Secret Diary of Katrina Hawkins. I loved the inclusion of those diary excerpts so much. I was so invested in Kat's journey and discovery, and it was just wonderful. However, in terms of the stories within the story, I really love Fortunes and Fables, and I loved the Ballad of Simon and Eleanor. That was probably my favorite part of this entire book. And when I buy a copy for myself, because yes, I need to buy a copy for myself and annotate it and reread it and just fall into this wonderful world yet again, I will be marking up this book so much. With the short stories, they were my favorite part, hands down, and I want to go back and just reread them because they are phenomenal. I want to say my number 1 favorite chapter, hands down, is called The Inn at the Edge of the World, and that story arc, which is like part of the short story. I don't know how to talk about this book because it literally, so much happens yet nothing happens, but everything happens and everything changes. It's just a beautiful book. I loved it so much, and I'm so happy that I got to experience this book and understand it and yet still be so utterly confused by it. Someone described this book as Alice in Wonderland on an acid trip, but I feel like Alice in Wonderland is already like, already that. So multiply that by like 3. And that's what you get going into the story. By the same token, it also felt so nostalgic for some reason that picking up this book was so easy because, again, I just felt so comfortable falling back into these pages and into this world and into the story. And I guess I need to stop trash talking Erin Morgenstern because she's made her redemption for me. Although I never really trash talk Erin Morgenstern, I just understood that her writing was not for me at the time when I first read it. But also, Erin Morgenstern did some things to me because, listen, I had very briefly, it was like a flutter of a thought where I thought about getting back into writing because I used to love writing so much in like high school. It was a major hobby of mine, and I completely turned away from writing after graduating high school and just not wanting to ever write again, basically, and I had no notions of ever wanting to become a storyteller or what have you. Lately, I've been reading so many good novels and they've been really inspiring with me potentially wanting to write. Probably not, don't hold me to it. Again, brief notions. However, after reading this book, how could I ever, when I know I can never match the level that Erin Morgenstern is on when it comes to crafting sentences and creating worlds and making readers transport into this world. So thank you for that, Erin Morgenstern. Appreciate it. Definitely don't look too deeply into this book in terms of trying to figure out what it is. If you like whimsy, if you like not knowing what's going on, if you like beautiful writing, pick this up and just enjoy the journey that it takes you on because it is quite the journey. So that is my little reading update for now. The next book I will be picking up will be Yona of the Dawn Volume 1. However, I'll be doing this in Arkansas literally tomorrow. I'm so unbelievably excited yet very stressed. I've been having perpetual panic attacks all day today while trying to pack because after Arkansas I'm immediately flying home to Texas for a week, so I'm trying to pack for that trip as well as the Arkansas trip, and I have so many things I need to bring and it's gonna be a pain in the butt to get it all in my luggage, but it's fine, we're gonna have fun. I think once I'm in Arkansas, because I'm flying to Katie's and then Katie and I are gonna drive down together, once we make it to Arkansas and things start happening, I'll be less stressed. But in the meantime, I get to be mildly anxious and yet very, very eager. I talked to the girls today and they're also very excited. So the next time you will see me, we shall be in Arkansas. So I lied, we're not in Arkansas yet. We are in Missouri because I thought I would take this moment to give Katie her gifts.
I'm so excited.
Y'all saw me wrap them earlier, so you already know.
Wait,
Katie
why am I the only one not in the know
because
right
they're
now?
for you. Let's go with this one first.
First of all, I love this little key.
Thought it was a nice little touch. Yeah. Repurposing the ribbon that she gave me previously.
Reduce, reuse, and recycle. This also feels like a book.
Perhaps, perhaps not. There's 2 things in here actually. So the postcard's separate.
Okay. Oh, this is cute.
So it's Dracula, but it's the lines. Like what you write on is just words, like tiny words.
I've never seen a journal like this before.
Yeah, I got it in the Netherlands.
That's so
your little
freaking
Netherlands
cool.
gift for ya.
Wait,
and that's a
this
cat
is
playing a
adorable.
trombone, which also is from the Netherlands, and I thought it was just like
this is so freaking cute though. Oh my gosh.
And then the present.
The present.
That you're gonna be very excited about this one. I'm excited on your behalf.
Okay.
I've been so excited.
For real? Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. I'm so excited about this. But you guys already know. Oh, it's obviously this is the 100K gift.
Obviously.
Oh my gosh, thank you.
You're welcome. Yay.
Oh, this is amazing.
That's why I was kind of losing my shit when I was like, that can't possibly,
Like, please,
I
no.
saw her bookshelf and I thought she owned this and I'm like, she didn't haul it in a vlog, there's no way.
No, trust me, I would have been screaming about this in the rooftops if I had bought this already. Thank you so much.
You're
this is crazy,
welcome.
honestly.
Yay.
I'm so happy because I've literally wanted this ever since I read the book last year. Is that really only last year?
Yeah.
Feels like an eternity ago.
And it felt like the perfect book to gift because there was no way that I would want to keep this. As pretty as it is, I didn't enjoy Emily Wilde, so it was an easy gift
so
to part
fair.
with. It's so stunning.
Oh, wait, I forgot about Under the Dust Jacket. Oh, it's so pretty. Oh, I'm so excited. So, you guys already know.
I did show it off.
Look at it. Oh, this is so nice that like I got myself like the second one for 100K.
I thought it was
and you
perfect.
got me the first
I
one.
thought it was perfect.
Wait, our parabatai bond is too strong these
Parabatai
days.
bond.
Oh my god, I love them so much.
I had to
And
give this to you. Oh my god, stop. Parabatai. We can't let the clave know.
Wait, no, I lied. Sorry.
Now, let's go
Woo!
sabotage an Arkansas trip.
In what way are we sabotaging?
I don't know. Remember I told you during our FaceTime call I'm sabotaging the trip?
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do?
I still haven't decided. We're gonna decide along the way.
The saboteuring has not started yet.
Or has it? Do 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 do. It's actually been a couple weeks since I've gotten back from the Arkansas trip because I went from Arkansas straight to Texas for a week and a half to visit family during the holidays. But the Arkansas trip is still living rent-free in my head. It was so much fun. You just saw so many things that we did, from a movie night to hiking to walking downtown to making bracelets. Speaking of, I thought I'd show mine off because I am quite pleased with how it turned out. It's got like a butterfly, a chalice, a compass, an acorn, and a book. And the book, little charm, hold on, it opens. I don't know if y'all can see that. I don't know if the camera's like properly focusing, but I'm so happy with it, and it's so cute. And another thing that I ended up starting after the Arkansas trip, in fact on the drive home, was something that I said I wasn't gonna do, and something that was like, oh, I'll get to it in the new year maybe. I'll be able to like do a big crochet project and yada yada yada. So I made a star blanket. This wasn't supposed to happen. I just couldn't stop. I started this with Katie on the drive home. I literally was like, Katie, we need to make a little pit stop at Michael's because on the way there, I crocheted a bunch of snowflakes and I kind of got sick of crocheting snowflakes and I wanted to crochet something else. And I'm like, I'll just start the star blanket. Like, I'm not gonna get very far in it, whatever. And then we got home from Arkansas, crocheted some more. And then I got home to Texas and spent so much of my time just like making this blanket, and I love it so much. I don't know if it's 100% complete. I might add a few more rows to make it just like a little bit bigger, but that is a project for later because I put off my work for far too long because I spent all my time crocheting that blanket. But I really, really miss crocheting and I'm having like so much fun doing it. And the only way I was able to stop myself from crocheting is just I ran out of skeins, and I'm not gonna go back to Michael's until I have caught up in all my work and I'm on top of all my stuff, and that's that. As for reading updates though, I really don't have much to tell you. You saw that I briefly picked up Yona at the cabin. I knew that we wouldn't really do that much reading, and I was right. I hardly have any thoughts on this at all. I'm literally like a sliver of the way in. So I thought today I would go ahead and finish reading Yona. Start and finish reading Yona, honestly, because again, I'm not that many pages in. However, I also thought it would be really, really fun to set up a journal spread with you all for the Arkansas trip that you just saw. I printed off a bunch of photos from the trip. I thought it would be a delightful thing to put together with you all. So let's go ahead and do some journaling, and then I will come back to give you my thoughts about Yona and wrap up this vlog. so much fun putting together my journal page for Arkansas. It was just so relaxing and something that I really, really needed. And then I sat down and I read all of Yona. Manga doesn't typically take me that long, so it took me a little under an hour because honestly, there was a lot of like full page like action spreads or pages with like 3 bubbles of dialogue max. So it was a very, very quick read. I will say though, out of all of the books that I read in this vlog, Yona was kind of my least favorite. That's not to say that I'm going to give up on Yona necessarily. Sometimes first volumes can be a little bit chaotic, I would say, and don't typically make sense straight away. And for that, I blame the fact that like when the author started writing, it wasn't supposed to be like a fully fledged manga. It was just like a couple panels here and there, and then the story developed. I just don't think that I liked how the story started. I think now that Yona and Hawk are like out of the palace, their adventures will be like really fun and stuff. The first volume though was definitely not one of my faves, I will say. It was also really weird in the beginning with like who Yona was in love with. I'm like, isn't that like your cousin? So that whole situation was just like, not my favorite. But I will probably either read some more volumes of it or try watching the anime and see if I want to continue with it. I'm not going to give up after one book because like I said, it is just one book and Katie loves it so much, so I'm sure the future volumes like get better and better. Just this particular volume didn't really do it for me. So I ended up giving it a 3-star, which is probably like the lowest I've rated a manga. Again, I didn't hate it. I think I will grow to like Yona. I just didn't like this particular volume. Here's hoping that Katie doesn't hate me. I did in fact though partake in some gaslighting of Katie because I just that is how I cope with being very excited about this video and having read all of these books, and all I want to do is talk to her about all of them. But I'm waiting until this video goes live so she can experience this and hopefully not freak out completely. But we were talking yesterday and she literally was like, you're banned from reading A Starless Sea. She said it was already such a divisive book and I know that you're gonna be one of the people that hate it and I don't want you to read my favorite book and hate it and yada yada yada. And me being who I am just kept egging her on because I had already read Starless Sea and I actually really, really loved it. I do love me some good gaslighting, so Katie, please forgive me, but you have to understand how entertaining it was to gaslight you. Honestly, it was probably the best part about reading all of these books was just being able to gaslight her. Anyways, speaking of all the books, let's go ahead and wrap up this vlog, wrap up this video. It has honestly been one of like my favorite videos that I've filmed today just because there's just so much joy in this video, I feel like, between like all the books I read, the fact that I'm doing this for Katie, the fact I get to surprise Katie again. And it's really funny because when we were on the Arkansas trip, we kept making jokes that there was like layers to the surprise. And after we left, I told Katie like, yeah, there's another layer. You're just not ready for it. And she's like, I don't believe you. Like, stop. That's enough. And I'm like, I'm just saying there is one more layer. And that last layer, Katie, was this vlog. So many good books in this vlog. Truly. Yona, perhaps not one of them. But again, that was just volume 1. We're not gonna give up on Yona, okay? She can get her redemption. Have a Soul was the first book that I read in this vlog. I ended up giving it a final rating of 4.5. It didn't stick with me as much as I thought it would. I did have like a really, really fun time reading it, but it wasn't like a 5-star read that is gonna like really stick with me. I think the banter and the dialogue was really fun, and it was really, really reminiscent of A Curious Beginning. I found these very, very similar. So if you've read one and you haven't read the other, I think that you'll enjoy it. It's set in the same atmosphere and the same historical setting with some very snarky, sassy characters. A Curious Beginning, I am also giving a 4.5. I got a little bored near the end and the dialogue and the banter wasn't as good as it was in the beginning and the middle. So there's a big chunk where I was just a little bored. I think that was when they really, really got into like solving the mystery, and I'm like, go back to just like flirting and insulting each other, please. Cause like I really liked that vibe. But then when they started actually focusing on the mystery, I was like, I don't actually care that much. But Veronica and Stoker, love them, and I'm really, really excited that I'm going to be continuing this series in the new year. As for The Starless Sea, I gave it a 4.25. It was a 5-star for a very, very long time. And then there was a, again, massive chunk of this book that just lost me, and I was so bored, and I was like, oh no, the thing that I feared would happen throughout the entire book finally started happening, and it literally like plummeted my rating from a 5 to a 4 while I was reading. And then the ending I really loved, so I got 0.25 back. I know that's like a really convoluted way to rate, but like I do ratings based on vibes and vibes alone, and this book just was phenomenal. I will absolutely be rereading this in the future. I can't wait to pick up a copy and to annotate it and to reread some of the short stories and just experience this world again now that I have like a baseline knowledge of what kind of occurs. It truly was such a whimsical and wonderful story, and I'm so glad that I picked it up, and I'm so happy that I loved it. And also, in your face, Katie, I freaking love this book. So here are the 4 books that I read for this vlog. All of Katie's favorite books just wrapped up into one video. I'm thrilled that I was actually able to successfully create this video and actually enjoy the process, because I was a little nervous and a little apprehensive if I would enjoy these books, but I did. I mean, all of them, except for Yona, got above a 4-star rating, which was better than expected. And the conclusion I think that I can draw from this video is that Katie does occasionally have good taste. If you haven't already, which I feel like if you're watching this, you know who Katie is. I know who Katie is. We all know and love Katie around here. But if you haven't already subscribed, you should go subscribe to her. And while you're down there, if you want to subscribe to me as well, that would be pretty cool, but like whatever. And be sure to go congratulate her on 100K as well. I know it's been a few weeks since she hit 100K, but like we can keep the party going, you know? Why stop? Thank you all so much for watching, and I do really hope to see you in the next one. Toodles!
Hi, I'm Cass.
Ew.
You do kind of do it like that.
I think I do though.
Yeah.
Do I need to change my intro? Because
Hi.
you saying it was horrible.
I'm Cass. Welcome back to my channel. Today.
You do that. Ew, it sounds so horrible when you do it. I'm like, is that what the people are hearing?
Well, I'm a 50-foot tall giant. Might be kind of slay.